Tonight, new Kangaroos captain Greg Inglis banned for 2 matches after being charged with drink driving.
We'd like to apologise to the public.
The race to find survivors following the deadly earthquake and tsunami in Indonesia.
The federal opposition ramps up the pressure over the Banking Royal Commission.
And remembering Ron Casey, the controversial broadcaster, passes away aged 89.
This is NBN News with Natasha Beyersdorf and Lobb.
Just a day after being named Australian captain, Greg Inglis has been banned from playing for the Kangaroos and stripped of the top job over drink driving charges.
The rugby league star today apologised for his actions, admitting they weren't good enough, before being told he couldn't play in upcoming matches against New Zealand and Tonga.
24 hours in the job, and the new captain of the Kangaroos was fighting to keep it.
This is it's got everything to do with me making one of those stupid mistakes that I shouldn't have done.
Greg Inglis was riding the roller coaster.
You're the captain of your country, son.
I can't believe it.
From a career high to a shattering low.
As a player and as a person around this community, you know, it's not good enough. Hey guys, just heading out to Dubbo, Wall Street Warriors.
Inglis spent the weekend in the country playing in an Indigenous rugby league tournament.
All it is about giving the kids a chance and giving back to the community. So I'll see you guys out there.
But on the drive back to Sydney, the Rabbitohs star was stopped by police on the Great Western Highway at Lithgow and booked for speeding, doing 99 in an 80 zone. He was also charged with mid-range drink driving.
I thought I was feeling fine. Obviously it wasn't, and you know, just if you think you feel fine, well then it's probably the best way. You probably don't jump in behind the wheel.
Inglis was expected to stand down, but the job and the title of Australian captain meant so much to him, he left the decision to the game's power brokers.
It's out of my hands now, but I would still love to, you know, it's something that I would really love.
By mid-afternoon, the Kangaroos coach, who yesterday gave him the job,
We congratulate Greg on being captain, appointed captain of the Kangaroos.
today took it away. In a statement, Mal Meninga said Inglis had shown real leadership by the way he's been accountable for his actions. Inglis will miss the 2 upcoming test matches against New Zealand and Tonga, and next month will have his day in Lithgow Court.
4 days on from the earthquake and tsunami that struck Indonesia, desperation is growing, with crowds now turning to looting for basic food, water and fuel. More than 1,200 people have been killed, but rescuers are still finding glimmers of hope under broken buildings.
Concrete. A man is found by flashlight, a head tilt and a blink. Good news, he's alive. He manages a few words and raises his hands before he's carefully pulled from what's left of a finance building. Rescuers are hoping for more stories like his, with scores of people still thought to be holding out under rubble. Efforts are focused on this 8-storey hotel in Palu. Sniffer dogs are brought in as one woman texted emergency teams from under the debris. But the grim reality is most won't make it. Broken bridges and roads have blocked access to remote areas. Aid workers say they walked through mud for hours to reach the bodies of 34 children who were killed when a mudslide swamped their church. Due to the staggering number of victims, a mass grave has been dug outside Palu. Burial is urgent because of stifling heat and fear of disease. The clean-up on the streets is overwhelming. The scale of the devastation clearing these before and after satellite images. More than 1,000 prisoners have broken free from jail. And crowds have turned to looting, with food, water and fuel running out. Australia is working to get supplies there fast.
The Australian government has already provided $500,000 of support, but our ambassador has been working closely with the Indonesian government to be looking at a second round of support.
Palu Airport has become a makeshift hospital, with the injured and wounded receiving treatment before they're evacuated out. This is a city that is home to 380,000 people, but now here there are hundreds of them, thousands of them, that are desperate to get out. But there is fury now over why the Indonesian government hadn't been at work earlier. Its tsunami warning system has been partially broken since 2012 and alerts were cancelled before the wave hit Palu. The blame game for that failure is just the beginning. For the people of Indonesia, it's all too late.
And reporter Sophie Walsh is in Palu tonight, the heart of the disaster zone, where urgent aid is just starting to trickle through.
Survivors is continuing here in Palu. It's home to 380,000 people, but as you can see here at the local airport, so many of them are now so desperate to get out. We know that there's more than 150 people still trapped underneath rubble in town after that earthquake rocked the entire area and also that tsunami swept through. So today the focus has been on trying to rescue those people trapped beneath the ruins. It's buildings upon buildings completely collapsed, kilometres of devastation as far as the eye can see. As you can see here at the airport, we have a huge amount of the army. They are helping getting these desperate people onto homes, onto planes away from here. They're all wanting to fly out to Makassar to safety. A lot of them don't have homes to go home to because they have been destroyed. Rescue crews haven't been able to get into a lot of areas. They've been able to get into Palu here, but further away, closer to where the epicentre of that earthquake was, they haven't actually been able to reach there because roads have been cut and communication has been cut.
Sophie Walsh reporting there. The Reserve Bank has released a pretty upbeat assessment of Australia's economy as it left the cash rate on hold at its record low of 1.5%. Despite declining house prices, especially in Sydney, the RBA said GDP growth was strong and the jobs market positive.
War of words has erupted over the Banking Royal Commission, with Labor demanding it be extended to hear more evidence from victims. But the Prime Minister says it's offensive for the opposition leader to argue that victims are being ignored and that he's undermining the work of the Commission.
High voltage rock is now immortalised by a 50-cent piece. The Mint flicked the switch for the launch of its AC/DC coin, blasting it with 3.5 million volts. The perfect image for a financial services industry thunderstruck by a Royal Commission that's declared it's driven by greed.
How come no one from the banks has gone to jail?
The opposition leader is amping up his attack.
If you steal from a bank, you go to jail. But if a bank steals from you, the top end get a bonus.
Labor wants the Royal Commission's time extended to hear more evidence of dirty deeds.
More than 9,000 people made submissions to the Royal Commission. Just 27 have had the opportunity to tell their stories in public.
The Shadow Finance Minister will tour the country to meet victims, but it's all aimed at spotlighting the Prime Minister.
He attacked me and made fun of me for calling for a Banking Royal Commission. We're not laughing now.
Scott Morrison has damned the opposition leader for playing political games.
To suggest that they have been ignoring the submissions that have been provided to the Royal Commission, I think is offensive, and I think Bill Shorten should apologise.
The Royal Commission the Prime Minister wants to talk about is the one he's launched into aged care. And today he announced that $100 million will be spent helping people stay in their homes as they age.
It deals with everything from meals to transport, domestic help.
Something he says he can do as the budget heads back into the black. Chris Ullman, NBN News.
Foreign Minister Maurice Payne has met the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in Washington. It follows on from Ms. Payne's trip to New York, where she attended the United Nations General Assembly. The ministers discussed the denuclearization of North Korea and their joint commitment to the Pacific.
Police are looking for a man who rammed a police car on the Central Coast this morning. The incident happened at Charmhaven shortly after midnight, after the driver of the red Holden Commodore refused to stop for officers. Anyone with information is being urged to come forward.
More than a hectare of bushland has been burnt at Sea Acres National Park in Port Macquarie this afternoon. 7 crews from New South Wales Fire and Rescue, the RFS and National Parks worked to bring the blaze under control after it began around 2 o'clock. No properties were under threat and the cause of the fire isn't yet known. You must leave. That's the message from Newcastle City Council to more than 80 men at boarding houses across Newcastle. The owner of the properties is asking for more time, with almost all of the men facing life on the street within 24 hours.
It's the harsh reality of safety over security.
Has anyone here got accommodation as of tomorrow morning, or are you all so none of you have anything else lined up?
Almost 80 men will have no roof over their heads, forced to leave 3 boarding houses by Newcastle Council due to fire compliance issues.
It's the reason I'm staying clean, and yeah, it's a happy environment, and yeah, we're all a good bunch of blokes here and we try our best.
And all we want is the council to work in with us. Again, as they said, a death trap, that's a lot of bull.
Out of all the people houses I have been in, it's one of the best ones.
Building owner Aaron Buman admits there are areas which don't meet the safety requirements. He's promising to fix each and every one, but wants council to award him the gift of time.
They will be homeless tomorrow, unless council sort of give me breathing space to get the sprinklers on.
We've been trying to work with the operator of the properties for a couple of months, and to be frank, he hasn't been willing to work with us.
Council CEO Jeremy Bath says it's been a frustrating process.